Hey now, how is everybody doing? Welcome to Red Alert Diaries with Tanya E. Hood. I am Tanya E. Hood, a wife, a mother, and an entrepreneur. As an entrepreneur, it simply means I've worn a lot of different hats in my life that have helped me develop a full range of strategies and actionable steps that I've used to help my clients make a strategic impact, both personally and professionally, to have better than what life has been giving them. Red Alert Diaries is based on the life lessons from my premier book, Red Alert. Is he the one? The pocket guide to finding the love of your life. Now, if you read my book, you already know that I got married at 21. And after 11 years of marriage, I found myself going through a divorce, having to raise my two sons alone. To reset my life and survive my divorce, I did what I needed to do more for me. And as a result, I have found the love of my life and my best friend, which just proves there is life after divorce. On this podcast, we have conversations that's real talk, marriage, divorce, money, and legacy. And I want you to join me on the journey. And today, we have a special guest that's joining us for a conversation, Miss Alicia Rickett, also known as Miss Ellie. Hi, Alicia. Welcome. How are you? Glad you're here.
I am very, very well. Thank you so much, Tanya, for joining or having me join with you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for being here. But first, I have got to introduce you to everybody. Miss Ellie is driven to contribute and influence flattering changes to the mindset globally by using edification, motivation, and inspiration. As a professor, author, talk show host, radio personality, and blogger, she dedicates her work to her family and laying down a firm foundation for them in order to build a solid future for generations to come. Ellie, thank you so much for being here. Would you like to share a little bit more about yourself with our audience?
Thanks again, Tanya. Oh my gosh, I appreciate you for having me here with you on this beautiful, beautiful show. For sure, I'd like to share a little bit more about myself. I'm definitely driven on, contributing to the mindset for anybody who's interested in that mindset shift. But most importantly, I am focused on my relationship with the Lord and allowing that to grow and blossom. And I believe that it helps me to be able to develop and nurture my goals and my skills that help and nurture others to grow and nurture theirs as well.
I'm glad you're saying that because too many times people have the thought process that you've got to separate your beliefs from what you do, especially if you're an entrepreneur. And with you having done so many things, Miss Ellie, tell us a little bit more about how your beliefs have strengthened you to do all those things we just talked about.
Well, definitely. I'm glad you said that because, for a long time it was something that I struggled with myself, and I how I got started with 416 Love is that I was in the legal field for very many years. When I went to college, after high school, I went to college to become a law clerk, and I was doing that for quite a bit of years. And then I decided to start my own business in that field as a process server, and I was doing very, very well. And I had my three children, and after my son was born, at the end there, I just felt as though I kind of wanted a change. So I was teaching the law clerk in the law clerk program at a college, at a community college. I was running my own company, and I was making some really, really good money. And I decided to put that all aside because I wanted to do what I was sent here for. I felt like I wasn't living out my real passion. Like I was sent here to do a job, and I felt like I was not doing it. And so I quit everything, and I decided to be a stay-at-home mom until I could figure it out. And after, like, going through, a major depression, and just really praying and trying to get close to the Lord to ask him what I was sent here for, what I was supposed to be doing, and where my gifts actually lie. And I remember one day just listening to Les Brown. Actually, I was listening to one of his messages, and he was just like, well, if you want something to change in your life, you've got to make the change. And so I started digging a little bit deeper into myself and asking myself, the real hard questions, looking at myself in the mirror. What needs to be changed, Ellie? Like, what do you got to do
I'm
to make
glad
this
you're
happen?
saying that. That's the
Mhm.
part that a lot of people don't do. And I recently shared a podcast that was talking about that very thing. A lot of people are trying to figure out how to make these adjustments in their life, and they don't recognize that you were born with a gift in your soul to change the trajectory of your existence. See, God put that there to support you and those around you. And hearing this from you, what does 416 Love mean? That's the name of your company?
It is the name of my company. And so the area code in our area, I'm from Toronto, Canada. And so our area code is actually 416. And so when I grew up, everybody knew our area code because it's a big city. So everybody would always say that, this is like a screw face city. People are so rude here. Anytime you come to Toronto, people are just very, very rude. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe we have a little bit of a screw face sometimes, or maybe, we can come off a little bit rude, but there's a lot of love in the city. And so instead of just going with that narrative, I decided to just call it 416 Love because I said I'm going to push out a lot of love in this 416 area code. And I'm going to allow people to show their love too, because there is a lot of love in the city.
Well, thank you for sharing that because I was wondering 416 Love, what does that mean? But now I have more clarity about what you were talking about when you said you were laying down the foundation for generations to come. And that's the piece that we were put here to do. Sometimes people forget that you start where you are. That is the piece that if we work on the place where we are, it's like our little personal Garden of Eden. When God created man, he put him in an environment that he was to dominate and rule. And in his ruling, rule the way God rules with love. So thank you so much for sharing that, Alicia. Let me ask you this. When you were going through starting to branch off into this unknown environment after leaving a job, I know that it was your belief that spurred you on to decide, I'm going to do this. But you said you wound up in a depression. How did you get out of that process? What did you do to move through that phase? Because there are some people that are trying to take this extra leap to get into business, and it's not as easy as you think. You go through some things. Can you share some of the things you went through and how you made it through?
Definitely. It is definitely not easy. And that's the first thing that, I want to say is that there's no cookie cutter 3 step or 5 step or book you can read that is going to pull you out of a rut. And when I was going through it, what I was doing was just watching a lot of videos, reading a lot of books, reading a lot of my Bible, praying a lot. And I realized that life has ups and downs and that there will always be hills and valleys. And even till today, I'm still sometimes going through hills and valleys. The difference is that my mindset is in a different place. So when I do feel as though I'm in a valley or whether I'm on the top of the hill, I'm always giving thanks for where I am. And I'm always being extremely appreciative of the lessons that I've learned from the past and the lessons that I am going to be learning. So a lot of times, I would be in the slump and crying or just not feeling like I wanted to get out of bed but realizing that there are things that have to be done every day. And then deciding to myself, what are the certain things that are non-negotiable every single day? And that's what helped me, my non-negotiables. And I write down my list every single day. I pray about my list. I leave my plans in the Lord's hands, and I expect that He is going to allow them to come to pass, however that looks. And also accepting the fact that it's not going to look like how I wrote it down on my book every single day. It's not always going to be checked off. It's not always going to get done in the way or in the fashion that I want it to. But just giving myself grace and allowing the Lord to operate, and me just being obedient and moving in my ordered steps that He has for me in His will. So it's not easy, though. It's extremely difficult, but I find it much easier when you are just obedient, when you're
I find that
obedient and you're
awesome.
holding his hand, it's a lot easier.
Hmm. The piece that people often want to think about, well, I've often heard said, if you believe in who God is, then he's just going to do all of this stuff and you don't even get your will or whatever. So, how can you truly trust? See, the thing that I had to learn, and when I was going through my journey, because I kind of had to step into my own as an entrepreneur, because I went through the divorce and that left me broke and broken. And a lot of you already know my story. But it was the gift that God put in me, the reminder that God will always be there. That perspective that you were talking about, the change in perspective is how you're able to make it through. And I love the fact that you said you had a list that was non negotiable. I didn't think about that for a long time. But having something that you can point to say this and no further. There's something that I often share with my clients called the 3 C's, and it taps into that non negotiable. So thank you so much for sharing. Write a list. So let me ask you this also as we go through, because you, in addition to tapping into the creator of the universe, and we need to have God join us on the journey because we can't do it by ourselves, but we also have others that we can tap into. You said you were reading books, you were listening to Les Brown. What other things that you do to order get you to a better position?
Well, it was a lot of reading, and a lot of work, mirror work. So a lot of looking at myself, self-reflection, um, and, going through the good, the bad, and the ugly, really being honest with myself. I think that's really what I had to come to terms with, things that I knew I needed to change. And instead of sweeping certain behaviors, certain attitudes under the rug, I really had to lift that rug up and clear the dirt out, really dust it all out and figure myself out. And so that's where I ended up writing my book called Figure It Out, because I felt like God will give you a way to get out of every situation if you truly want to, but you have to be honest about it. And sometimes that's the hardest thing, is looking at yourself in the mirror and really pulling out the things that need to be pulled out, and then being consistent with disciplining yourself. So that's really, really where it was for me, like the self-discipline and the self-reflection.
And that's not an easy journey because I'm guessing that the same way God told me to write Red Alert, he told you to write that book. And in doing so, you had to uncover some things about yourself. One of the key components in my book, The 3 C's, talks about what you just stated. There are some things you got to disconnect from, and there are other things that you need to connect with. But before you do any of that, you need to be clear from the top of your head to the soles of your feet what you are dealing with. Too many times, people stay stuck because they choose not to walk in the truth of a thing. And when I was sharing, and you're sitting in the middle of a whole bunch of stuff, I just recently talked to a whole bunch of people about. So this conversation was a conversation that needed to be had because I think in this one, we're giving people the opportunity to just remember some stuff that has been told to you. We often hear the truth of things, but when you see the facts of the situation, they don't quite line up, so you forget the truth even exists. But truth sits outside of facts. Facts don't always include truth. So you have to be clear about what it is. And when you align the truth with what God says, oh, that'll have you step into a different direction, because that is how I was able to reset, refunction, and get into a new direction as well. So I haven't heard about this conversation about getting clear about yourself. What is it that you can tell someone? Because I've talked about the mirror exercise also. It took me 3 years to stop crying just to tell me that I love me. What else can you tell people to do to get crystal clear from the top of their head to the soles of their feet? Because if you're lying to yourself, you're not gonna get healed or whole, and you're gonna keep walking through that stuff.
I love the way you put that. It's 100%. You're speaking the truth, and even though there's facts in there, those facts are truth. So I love it. But what I would say is journaling. Journaling helped me big time, writing things down, and then not only just writing them down, going back and reflecting. Going back and looking over the notes that you took. not only just journaling when you're feeling upset, but journaling when you're feeling happy, journaling every single day consecutively for, let's say, 30 to 60 days, even 90 days. And then reflecting on that information will really help you to get some perspective on where your mind is. Because once you change your mind about something, your whole life will change. Like a lot of things are going to change about your situation, about whatever is happening, whatever you need to happen, once you actually take a look at that. So it's not only just looking in the mirror and talking to yourself, because I do a lot of that as well, but actually writing down how you're feeling, and then going back to reflect on it so that you know exactly, like it speaks the truth. It'll speak to you. You'll be like, oh my gosh, like really? That's what I was thinking that day.
And
Wow.
those are the things that sometimes if you let yourself go back and reflect on them, it can change some things because Red Alert is he the one. This book was birthed from journals that I have written about my story. I needed a reset. So, one of the things you may not be aware, but a lot of individuals that listen to this know that I'm an electrical engineer by discipline, project manager by trade. So, my natural, logical, analytical mind thinks in outlines. So, I knew I got clear, that clarity piece. My non negotiable was to repeat some of the chaos that I had just walked into so that I don't walk into another relationship like that again. So I wrote down some strategies and actionable steps that I could take in a 4-page outline. And I thought, my logical mind, everybody else can read this, they can understand this. No, it didn't work out like that. So what I ended up having to do was to pull out my journals, to go back through my story, to see what was there and why did I write that point. So when people get to Roman numeral A, subset 1, then you recognize that that's that part of that story. But for those of you that are reading the book, it's the subtitles so that you know what I was thinking of along the way. Tell us a little bit more because in your book, you've given some insight about how individuals can get through their process as well. Tell us a little more about your book and give us an idea where people can get it.
The book is also available on Amazon, so you could check it out on Amazon. It's called Figure It Out. And in the book, I did write down, just as you were mentioning, it's so important for us to do the journaling piece. So along with all of my research and all of the other things that I studied about the mindset, and how you can change your mind, because I realized that, yeah, you can say you changed your mind. And it happened to me so many times. I'm like, oh, I'm good, I'm good. And something will trigger you. And then you're right back into that place where you were like, you were a couple of months ago, and you're like, how did I get here again? So you have to really condition your mind and water your garden, because our mind is like a garden. And so when you go in, you got to start thinking, like you were mentioning before, about Liza may have been told to you back when you were a child, or certain things that happened and you developed some sort of defense mechanism for something because of some situation that may have happened long ago, and you've been lying to yourself about a situation for years, right? Or pretending that things were fine, and things actually aren't fine at all. So we got to go back in time and try to really dig deep into all of that. And so it's just really taking time with yourself, taking time with the things that you know to be true, and then also your journaling. And what I really found was important was catching your thoughts. Sometimes meditation is really important as well, but catching those thoughts, like sometimes you'll be there thinking, you got to think about what you're thinking about. You know what I mean? Like, are those thoughts really serving you? And then my
Exactly.
environment as well was something I really had to check. Am I coddling behavior that is not good for me? Not only my own, but some people that are around me. Have they been hanging around me because I've been this person that believed this lie all this time about myself? Like, it was a whole shift. But once you start being truthful, things kind of just, the dead weight just kind of just falls off. And then you find yourself running in a total different race.
And here's the thing about sitting in that truth. Taking this back to a belief factor. So, those of you watching, I've said on a couple of different occasions, you don't have to believe in a God I serve, but if you want to come on this side of the journey, there's a way of getting healed, there's a way of getting whole. And Jesus saved my soul on more than one occasion. And the Bible, people think the Bible is about religion. It's not. The Bible is an instruction book on how to do life well. And in there is a story similar to what you were just sharing, the man by the pool of Bethesda. You see, he was going there year after year after year, sitting in his stuff. And when Jesus came to say, do you want to be whole? A lot of us want that question asked of us. But the answer that we give is often the answer that he gave, an excuse. So if you want to live in your excuses will continue to hold you hostage. And when I was reading the Bible and God shared with me, yes, you're out of the divorce because you asked me, but the level of thinking that got you there is not the level of thinking that's going to move you into a different direction. So, do you want to be whole? And as I journaled out my thoughts, as I started taking them captive and making them obedient to the Lord, God started rearranging my Bible study. Because you see, something else that will get you through your journey is letting God walk you through his Bible in a different way. It's a living word, not because the words are changing. It's a living word because something in you changed in order for you to get to a different direction. And if you let God walk you through the Bible the way you are structured, because I read things a little bit different, I'm dyslexic. So some things that I read in the Bible don't quite look the way it looks for others, but it's exactly what I need in that moment at that time. And when I needed to get a different perspective, God rearranged it all. So let's talk a little bit more about perspective because I want to give one more touch point. Because in this podcast, we try to leave one something for somebody to take away at each one. And I thank you already for giving a couple of nuggets that we can walk away with. But one more thing about changing perspective. How should we do that? And how can we do that? Please share.
Changing perspective is not easy. It's life work. That's what I call it. It's something that you have to continuously work on. But the biggest thing I think that anybody can relate to, especially right now, is everybody's chasing the bag, secure the bag, secure the bag. But I realize that we are the bag. So you are the bag. So you need to secure yourself. And once you secure yourself, you're good to go. You'll get the bag, you'll get everything else. But securing yourself is more important than securing anything outside of yourself. Because if you don't have you have nothing.
I'm glad that you shared that because episode 33 of Red Alert Diaries, I was just sharing that some people try to figure out where did their income go. And with all the different changes that's happening in the world, people are like, I need to do something different with my income. You were already born with a gift that God gave for you to maximize your income. And a lot of that comes with what you just shared. So thank you so much for sharing that. And here's one other thing. You help people with a personalized course to give them an opportunity to change their perspective, to move into a better direction. Can you tell us more about your course?
Yes, so definitely when I was going through it, I was creating this course at the same time, and I didn't even realize that I was creating this course and I was writing my book at the same time. So Figure It Out goes with the course, and it's called Mindset 101. I'm actually developing another course that's called Train the Brain. But right now I do have Mindset 101 that is out. It's a personalized course. So once you decide that you're ready to take this course with me, we're going to set up some hours, organize ourselves on how we are going to go through the modules. And it's basically just me assisting you on self-reflection, on self-discipline, and on that life work. Because let's face it, we cannot do this life journey by ourselves. It's not easy. And even though I was going through it, there were a lot of trusted people that I could turn to and lean on when I was going through my rut. And so it's really important to have somebody that is going to see you when you drop down on the floor and not just turn their back on you, but offer that hand to help you up and then continue to walk with you as well when you're on that journey. And even if you're able to start running and run off by yourself, that they're always going to be there, for you in case of anything, if you need to, reach out for any other reason, or if you fall down again, they're going to be there to help you up. So it's really important, and that's what Mindset 101 is about. It's about helping others when they are ready to make that change, when they are committed to sticking to their commitments. I'm definitely going to be there to assist you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And you have a special gift that you want to offer my audience at this time that's associated with your personalized course. Can you tell us more about that?
Definitely. So I just want to thank everybody for, tuning in, and I appreciate Tanya so much for having me on the show. I want to offer all of her guests and viewers 15% off the course. So if you are interested and you get in touch, just let me know you've seen it right here on Red Alert Diaries, and you automatically will get 15% off.
Thank you for sharing that. And I appreciate the gift that you're giving the audience today. And so, as we're wrapping this up, you have given so much, and I'm appreciative, Miss Ali, Miss Ellie. I want to say Miss Alicia so bad, Miss Ellie, so that when people go looking for you, they can find you. Give us one last thought that you want to leave the audience with today so that they realize that this is a thing that they need to do. Tap into their belief and continue to let that fuel them to do the things that they would desire in this world because they can get better. They can get whole, and things will move into a better direction when they believe.
Definitely. I think I made this word up, but I do like to say everything is figure outable. And if you just have faith and place your plans before the Lord and have the ultimate faith that whatever you've asked of Him, that you will receive, because in the Word it does tell us to ask and we shall receive, that it's going to come to pass. And to just be patient as well, because things don't always happen in our time. We're always looking at our clocks, always checking the time, always writing down dates and everything as to when we want things to happen. But we have to remember that the Lord is the master of time. He's in time, He's outside of time, He's the creator of it all. So things are not always going to happen when we want it to. But if we have faith in Him and place our plans before Him and really know that they're going to come to pass, when they do, we can't lose it because we are the bag, right? So that's it.
And so I want to say thank you so much, Miss Ellie, for that. You have poured so much into us, and I appreciate all that you give and continue to empower those around you. And so for today, if you don't remember anything else that was shared, here's the one thing we want you to know. There's a belief that you have to have that will change your perspective, and having a belief in the creator of the universe will give you the opportunity to move into a better direction. Jesus has helped me change my mindset so that I can fully function. He was the one that picked me up off the bathroom floor of that two-bedroom apartment. You've also heard that he was the one that has given Miss Ellie the changes that she needs to move from a full-time job to taking a leap of faith. That leap of faith that you've been looking for, that value added that is already in your soul will help you transform. And if you're looking for someone to join you on the journey, feel free to go to Miss Ellie's website, 416love.com. I'm going to put that information down so that all of you can see it. And if you're looking for a little more of someone to join you on the journey, you can go to my website, tanyaehood.com. There, you can connect with me by selecting the Work With Me tab, and we can have this extended conversation because every Tuesday we go live on Instagram at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm asking you to join me there. And Miss Ellie is on Instagram as well, so we can continue this conversation or we can start a new one. In the meantime, this is Tanya E. Hood walking in my purpose, and I want you to do the same.